feet. Touchdown, Ravens!
What a play by the Ravens. It's going to result in a touchdown. Play action. Pass is caught. That's going to be a first down for the Ravens. 40, 30, 20, 10, 5, touchdown, Ravens! And the crowd goes wild.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to episode 2 of the Play Action Podcast. I'm quarterback coach Gary Stapleton.
What's up? I'm Coach Johnson, receivers coach.
And I'm head football coach Jonathan Coddington. Excited to have you guys back today. Good to be back with both of you guys. So, today we were kind of planning on taking a little bit of a deep dive into recruiting and kind of, sharing with, people what, kind of how we recruit, kind of give some tips, share with some young guys that are looking to get recruited, how to go about that process. Because it's, there's a lot of fun things to that process. It can be stressful as well, too. There's a lot that goes into it. And, I guess to start with, we'd love to just hear, your guys' stories of your recruiting process. I know I was a piece of your recruiting story. I'll let you go ahead and go first.
Yeah, so, my recruiting process was, kind of all over the place at first. I didn't really have very many offers going into my senior year, not very many looks. And so I went to a lot of camps going into my senior year, got a bunch of D3 looks, and then I got to Concordia's camp and wasn't on their radar at all, had never heard of them whatsoever, and they actually had a quarterback there that they were trying to recruit. Not over me, but just their guy. Yeah. And so I get there, and I was the best one throwing. I was like, okay, let's go. And we get to one-on-ones, and nobody could hit the back shoulder fade. And the offensive coordinator at the time pulled me over. He's like, come on, can you hit this back shoulder fade? I was like, I can hit this back shoulder fade. And I threw the best back shoulder fade ball I've ever thrown in my life. And he pulled me aside afterwards, and I got offered from there, and it was pretty much just felt like home from that point on. So, yeah, that was kind of an interesting route to get to where I'm at, but yeah, it was a pretty unique story.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that, sometimes it's right place, right time. You do the right thing, you get seen, and you get an opportunity based upon that. And so it's, cool. And then all right, so that started the process or got the process going. Then what was the recruiting process from that point to you signing? Kind of how did that go? Right.
So a lot of visits. I took about 3 or 4 visits to Concordia after that. Mm-hmm. I obviously went to a couple other places as well. But I went to a game day visit. I didn't do an overnight, but I just did one of those day visits. Mm-hmm. And then I pretty much knew after my second visit that I was going to be a Cardinal. And it kind of made it easy for me at that point. And then I got some late offers, actually, at the end of my senior year. So it was June. I got a couple late offers.
So this was after you got the Concordia offer?
Yeah, it was after I got the Concordia.
Yeah, I didn't know about that. I had to go smack some people around and trying to poach you from us.
Yeah, it was. I had a decent all-star game, and so a couple coaches offered me. I was already full signed and everything. I paid my tuition deposit, so I was like, I'm not getting that back. I'm going to Concordia.
$200 was binding at that point in time.
Yeah, for sure. But
it sucks how when you get offered, they start coming in, or even after you commit. Right. Those people that you maybe wanted to knock
for sure
earlier are knocking now or whatever.
Yeah, and I ended up getting a higher offer after I was at just a quarterback camp, just throwing. And one of the dads there, one of the smaller quarterbacks, was a Division II coach. And he ended up seeing me throw and offered me, and I was fully committed, man. I was all in.
Let's go.
Yeah, so that was kind of a little bit all over the place story, but ended up pretty much knowing where I wanted to go. So.
Yeah. So now on, first episode, we were kind of talking, you were interested in Concordia, from the get-go out of high school, but obviously that didn't kind of work out as planned. Kind of take us through, your recruiting process.
Yeah. So when I was graduating, Concordia, along with Siena Heights, those were 2 new up-and-coming programs, first year, second year programs. And, I kind of felt like they were in a place where they needed players. And myself in high school, I rode the bench. I had a 6'3" tight end in front of me, 6'4" tight end. My senior year, he was a junior. I had 1 touchdown on varsity, 1 touchdown senior year. So I was pretty average. My coaches didn't expect me to go on and do what I did after high school. So I got it out the mud myself. I found a school, and let me go back to the Siena and Concordia. I applied to both of those schools, and I got denied because I had a low GPA, a low 2.0, and they told me to go to community college, get my grades up, and then reapply. So I did that, but instead of just going to any old school, I mean, I went to Schoolcraft. I took a gap year. I went to Schoolcraft for a semester, and I helped out at my high school with the JV receivers. And then once the class of 2013 graduated, like going into that fall, that's when I went off to college. And that's when I found Vermilion Community College. They're out in Ely, Minnesota, small JUCO, and I made that everything. You know, I went to visit out in April. Snow was up to my waist.
Holy cow!
You know, rental car got stuck in the snow.
Man.
My mom, my grandparents, my dad, my sister, they all like, "You ain't coming here, man. You don't need to be up here, X, Y, Z." And for me, you know, I didn't care where I played. I could play in Alaska, dang near. It doesn't matter. I just wanted to go play college football and show to myself that, you know, I could do it. Because freshman year, that was my first time ever playing football in high school. Sophomore on JV, I started. Junior, senior year, I was progressing, but I never had a chance to really try to become a starter. You know, they had their guys, and again, you know, I still wasn't doing things right. But once I left to go to JUCO, that's when I kind of tapped into my bag and starter, captain, all academic my first year in JUCO. So I really wanted to take advantage of this fresh start, and that's what JUCO was for me, to reestablish my GPA so I could get into a 4-year school. And I did 2 years at Vermilion, first generation college student, so getting my AA was important. And that also made the transferring process easy, because I didn't have to worry about what credits were transferring or whatever. So I know if I get this AA, 60 credits, they all coming with me, and then I get to dive right into my core classes, and that was fun. And that was an adjustment too, even going from JUCO to a 2-year school to a 4-year school. You know, the speed adjustment was real for me. But once you get comfortable and understand what's going on, you start to slow things down, and that's when you really know, you know, you kind of got things under control. And you know, going to Vermilion, like I said, they didn't contact me, I contacted them. And even there, you know, my first year I had some success, second year had some success. My second year I broke my collarbone. I broke a bone each year, but my last year really kind of affected me mentally. I broke my collarbone last game before the playoffs, one of my best games ever, and I thought I wasn't going to play college football anymore. You know, and I had a couple other adversities go on as well. You know, that's another conversation for another time. But you know, we had a stud nose guard on our team. He had his first school to come through was Notre Dame, and he had a couple Division I schools come by. But outside of that, you know, every school that came by, he's letting his guys know, like, hey, I got this school coming down at this time. So come on down, introduce yourself, say what's up. And I took advantage of that. Every time a coach came through, you know, majority of them were NAIA coaches. I tried to get on with some of the Division IIs out in Minnesota, Duluth, Bemidji, Minot. But it just didn't work out. And, you know, that stuff didn't discourage me, but it was one school, it's one coach, Waldorf College out in Forest City, Iowa, NAIA. Coach Kent Anderson came down looking clean. He had a black sweater on with a baby blue button up with a purple tie. And he had blue eyes that matched his shirt. And I'm like, he clean. Yeah. He clean. And, you know, I took my sling. I was still in my sling at the time. I took my sling off, and I came down, introduced myself, you know, told him my name, Lamont Johnson, receiver, captain. And he was like, okay, sit down, kind of asked me a couple questions, asked me about my recruiting process, asked me about my grades. I said, I ain't got nobody talking to me, you know. But my freshman year, I had a couple offers. People wanted me to leave JUCO my freshman year, but like I said, I was a first generation college student, and I wanted my process for me leaving to be simple. And so I chose to stay, and I didn't have no offers my sophomore year. And that was kind of messing with me, but Uncle Kent, I call him Uncle Kent, because he's just he was a cool guy, and it was respect. I called him Coach Unc, but he was a great guy, and he took a liking to how I carry myself, my story, what I've been through, and he was like, man, you're a captain, and nobody's talking, like, I need you on my team. And you know, the rest was kind of history from there. You know, I went there, gave that man everything I got. He drove 6 hours to recruit me and 3 other of my teammates to bring us on visits, overnight visits, 3 times. So that's 12 hours a visit. You know, he's committing to me, and it was a no-brainer. And you know, I had a lot of fun, a lot of memories, and I'm glad I went to Waldorf.
Yeah, it's interesting how you know, sometimes people stick out because of what they do on the field. Sometimes people stick out, like you said, how you carried yourself off the field, you being a captain. Some of those other things contributed just as much, maybe if not even more, for him to recruit you versus just the catches, you know, the route running, what you could do with the ball in your hands, you know, that type of stuff. So
that stuff is important.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I know, you know, we kind of you know, want to get into a little bit of our process, you know, here at Anderson, how we go about, you know, recruiting, and you know, there's a lot to it, right? You know, there's the logistical things that, you know, kind of the guys that we're recruiting have to do, the boxes that they have to check. Then there's the things, you know, just as far as how the communication goes. But really for us, like we've talked about it from day one, it just all boils down to relationship building. You know, we need to get to know the guys, and we need them to get to know us and our team, and it's a lot about finding the right fit. And like, you know, we want good football players. Who doesn't want good football players, right? But more than that, it's like we need good people here. We need guys that are going to be great teammates, guys that are going to work really hard, guys that are going to do things the right way. We call it the Raven way, you know, our way of doing stuff. You know, guys that you know, are leaders that are going to just add value to our team, our community, our campus. And you know, we don't know that unless we get to know them really well. And so while there's a process to different check boxes and checkpoints to this recruiting process, it's more just about the relationships.
And every school does it different. Every school values things different, and that's what makes the recruiting process unique. You know, a lot of coaches put recruiting in the same umbrella as sales, dating. You know, you got to find your fit, you know, and you got to find that market that you're looking for and shop in it all day. You know what you want, be anal about what you want, and make sure you get it. Because you know, you don't want to go through a process to where you're bouncing around, and like, just because people doing it don't mean it's cool. Like, I get it. You know, sometimes transferring may be the right thing, but you know, you got, especially if you're getting started early and taking the time, it's like, don't be that guy who got started early and then transferred 2 times. Like, dude, what have you been doing?
Most definitely.
Yeah, just like kind of piggybacking off of, you know, what you were last talking about, just like having to re-recruit guys, especially now, is like really big. I know we talk about that a lot in our coaches meetings, and you know, keeping those relationships and making sure that those relationships are stable is just so big. And you know, I talk about our relationship a lot with our guys because me and you had a really good relationship in college, and you know, you didn't necessarily re-recruit me, but our relationship was a part of the reason why I stayed. And you know, that's just so big, and it's so eye-opening because you don't realize it in the moment. Because I wasn't sitting there like, oh, I'm staying because of Coach Coddington, right? But once you leave and you realize like you're not around those people every day and you're not talking to those people every day, it's like, wow, it's like that guy had a really big impact on me. And you know, a quote I heard the other day was from Nick Saban. You know, it's not about what people say. People are gonna remember how you make them feel. And so, you know, I don't remember everything we said in all of our meetings and don't remember all the practices and all that, but you know, I just remember, you know, feeling good every time I came down to the office, and just remember feeling good, like, all right, like today's going to be a good day. Like, no matter what the practice was going to be like, I just remember, like, okay, like, I just know our Indy's going to be awesome. We're going to have fun during our time. And so, you know, that's just such a key piece now, is just having to re-recruit those guys and keeping those guys around for a long period of time.
Now, you may do 30 down-ups if you don't pull pitch on Miami
and
Hurricanes,
yeah,
but
that's a whole nother story for another time. But yeah,
we'll have a good time.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And that's kind of what I wanted to stem into, is like, y'all relationship didn't start off like this.
No.
You know what I mean? You've done some things, probably made him mad. XYZ, you've done some things to make you mad.
He did some of that yesterday too.
Exactly.
So, you know,
It happens every day.
But it's like you said, you know, you guys understand that he is who he is. And in the long run, that's part of the reason why you stayed. And you got to be patient with each other so y'all could get to that, essentially.
Yeah, without a doubt. So, just kind of sticking on the topic, what are things that, you know, that you look for maybe on and off the field for recruits? Something that gets you maybe excited?
Yeah, so, you know, obviously just the nature of it, we got a ton of guys that reach out to us all the time, which is great. I love when guys reach out to us. Also, we go and we look for guys, obviously too, and whether it's meeting them, meeting their families, talking to coaches. I mean, there's a million things that we look for on the tape based on their position. There's a lot that we look for just in every interaction. So I think like for a recruit, one thing we'd want you to know is like, man, we're evaluating you all the time. Yeah. And that was even, yesterday. We were at some scrimmages yesterday, watching some kids, and I was watching this receiver and what he was doing, obviously on the field, not just in the pass plays, but also in the run plays. And there was a difference between how he was, when it was a pass and he thought he might get the ball, and when it was a run, it was a very distinct difference. But then also watching him too when he was on the sidelines and the defense was out there, or the younger guys were out there too, and how he carried himself on the sidelines. Is he a guy that cheers on his guys? Is he a guy that just kind of like sits on the bench, puts his helmet down, and he's disengaged? Those are things that it's like I look for as well too. And so just understanding that every moment, whether you know it or not, you're going to be feeling that, or you're going to be getting evaluated, in those moments, I think is important to know. We're going to look for, getting good recommendations, from guys. So it's like we're going to talk to the high school coach. Hey, what's this guy like day to day? Because odds are, if he's like this day to day for you, he's probably going to be like it day to day for me too. Now, there could be some differences because each program's different, the standards are different, the culture is going to be different. But if a guy's going to be a hard worker in the weight room at his high school, he's probably going to be a hard worker in the weight room here. If he's going to be, a captain, a vocal leader at his high school, I'm assuming he's going to be the same thing here. And those are some of the types of things, that we want. I would say also too, just looking for a guy that's going to be, open and honest about who he is, what he's looking for, because that's how we're going to be, as well too. And, I'm going to be the same guy today that I am tomorrow. I'm going to try to be as best as I can, and that'll be the same guy that you're going to see day 1 at camp, week 10, during the season. And so would like to see that from, our guys. And so, then there's the process of bringing them into our program once they've committed, once they're on our team. It's, we talk to our guys obviously about, we've got our culture, we've got our way of doing things, and you've got to agree to the standards and how we do things when you're a part of our team. But we also have a lot of guys that are very different, and I want guys that are different. I don't want a carbon copy of a certain guy at a different position. I don't want everybody to act like me. I'm a better me than you are. I'm a better me than any other guy's going to be. I don't want a bunch of me's running around, but I want guys that are going to align with us, align with our standards, but you be you. As long as you're aligned, with us. And so I want to know that personality. I want to know kind of some of those quirky, kind of things about different guys. We don't need the same, a bunch of the same guys running around. We need some different guys. And so those are, some things, obviously on tape, we talk about, our identity as a team. We want to be the toughest, the hardest working, the most competitive team in the country. And so that needs to be made up of guys that are tough, mentally and physically tough. We need guys that it's like you turn on the tape and you see a tough dude. You hear from his coach, it's like, man, this is a guy that's gone through adversity, he's battled, he's got some mental toughness to him that regardless of situations good or bad, he's going to show up and do his job. Guys that can physically, dominate the game of football. It's like we want to see that on film. Dudes that are hardworking, and we hear that from teammates, from coaches, from people that just watch. It's like, man, this dude won't get outworked. Like he's always coming in. He's the guy that comes in early. He's the guy that puts in the most work. We need hardworking guys and guys that are competitive. And no team's going to win every single game, but you better believe you're going to win every single game. And the guy that wants to compete as much every single play, whether that's different individual drills, a 1-on-1, a 7-on-7, a team rep in practice, the game reps, if it's just playing video games, if it's they're playing basketball, if they're playing on the lacrosse or the baseball team, and they're just competitors. We need competitors. And so those are things that you can kind of see on the tape, but it doesn't matter what position. I need a competitive quarterback, I need a competitive defensive lineman, I need a tough running back, I need a tough safety. It's like I need a linebacker that's going to outwork everybody, a receiver that's going to outwork everybody. Those are things that regardless of position, we need those in what we look for. So what about quarterback specifically? What are you looking for in a quarterback?
So that just threw me off. Sorry. You're
welcome.
No, I was going to piggyback off what you were going to say real quick about, it's kind of a little bit of segue into the next thing, but just talking about you were talking about work ethic and hard work. That just always sticks out to me because it only gets harder, right, at this level. And you gotta, I tell guys all the time, it's basically like having 2 full-time jobs. You got school that's a full-time job, and you got football that's a full-time job. And if you're not paying attention, if you're not locked into both, then you can easily just kind of fall through the cracks. And so At quarterback specifically, man, I want a guy who's a leader, man. I think that's the number one quality in a quarterback is leadership. Whether it's vocal, whether it's leading by example. I think that's a really good quality to have, and honestly, just a quality that our program needs. And so, just going forward, looking for leadership. And in terms of on the field, I look for obviously good mechanics, good footwork. Looking for can they throw specific types of throws, whether it's vertical down the field, whether it's short, intermediate, and kind of like you said, asking their coach how they really are, asking teammates how they really are. Because if you're bringing in a quarterback that may be good on the field but's not a good guy, then what kind of person are you really bringing in? And just keep harping on that relationship piece. And I want a guy who's going to come in, have a good relationship with me, and just have a good room overall.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So no, I think all those obviously are great things. Lamont, how about for you? What are some things you look for in recruits?
So for me, it all boils down to what can't I teach you, So for me, grit, that's one of those things I feel like you can't teach. Just hating to lose more than you want to win. It's not about winning every rep, but even if you lose, you're gonna take something away from that, and the next time you get that next rep, you get to apply that lesson you learned from that L in this next rep. And half of that comes from confidence, I think. But, I'm looking for guys who just got that about them. That I just want it, coach. And not just I gotta go. I'm locked in. It's all right. I did that wrong. Okay, watch this. And then even to piggyback off of what you got going, what you said with hard work. That could go for on the field and off the field. That's who I am.
Mm-hmm.
I got to where I am by putting in work. So I don't want nobody around me who's not going to be willing to do that. Who's
Mm-hmm.
afraid to do the hard work, do the hard things, and get dirty essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Because once you get to college, it's not like this is going to get any easier. Like you said, this is going to get harder and harder, and you want to be a certain type of player, a certain type of teammate, you're gonna have to do certain type of things and understand what those things acquire. So for me, you gotta be able to roll your sleeves up and get dirty. And then on the other side, I just like guys, I'm a big personality guy. I like to know what's going on with guys, but I can't really pin that on a dude. But I like guys who just carry themselves well. I'm looking for guys who are mature but can still be themselves. I'm a mature guy, but you seen me around my best friends, man. It's like I'm one of the guys all over again. But it just shows, what you care about, what you value, time management, and those type of things. How you spend your time is important at the collegiate level. It matters in general, but once you get to college, I'm not about to be chasing you around. If I got to chase you around, I'm just gonna recruit somebody who I don't got to chase. So you gotta keep the main thing the main thing. And through the process, we talked about how guys are always being evaluated. It may just not been his day. I know for me, I'm not gonna throw a kid away if I don't like how the thing goes, how the first interaction goes or whatever. I'm gonna give you a couple chances. But if I feel like you just keep doing the same thing, or you feel like it's entitled, or I should be like, it's not how this works, man. It's a two-way street. You gotta find what you're looking for. I'm trying to find what I'm looking for.
That's the old Bill Parcells quote of when someone shows you who they are, believe them. It may not be that one day, but it's like they show you who they are consistently. Believe what they're showing you. Absolutely.
So, but yeah, those are some key components outside of just the physical side of things.
Definitely. Well, so for kids in this recruiting process, as they go through it, man, there's so many things that you can control, and there's so many things that you can't control. So if you're a quarterback and you play in a wing T offense, you can't control that you're only going to throw the ball 10 times a game. But what are the things that you can control? You can control your GPA. You ask any coach in the country, they're going to tell you, you're recruitable based upon your GPA. The higher GPA, the more opportunities you're going to get, the more money you're going to get, the better places you can, look into. Thinking on the controllable things, not necessarily the things that you can't control, is the most important thing. You can't control your coach. You can't control your offense and defense. You can't control your teammates. You can't control, maybe the coaches that are interested in you. What can can you control? Your grades, the effort that you put in, the work that you put in, the time investment. You can control who you're reaching out to, how much you reach out. There's so many controllable things, and that so if you could give one tip, to a young guy, man, there's a million tips you can give to a young guy that's starting or in the middle of this recruiting process. But if you can give him one controllable tip, what would you say?
I would say take the time to know what you want. Don't go around chasing what you see on the internet, what your friends got. Just because your friend got this offer don't mean you get that offer. So know what it is you want and go find that. Like I said earlier, find that market and shop in it all day long.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, and that could go for the football. Find the offense, defense that you want. Yeah, find the major that you want. Find the type of campus size you want.
Big school, small school.
Yep.
All that. How far you want to be from home. If distance is a thing.
So many factors.
Don't be talking to me if you down south and you want to stay close. Like, come on, man.
And I want to take that moment to say we are the Anderson University in Indiana, not in South Carolina. So for those South Carolina listeners, if you're going to stay close to home, we ain't it. The Indiana guys though. This is where you got to be.
No shade against those guys. But I'm pretty sure they had a situation too once or twice when somebody came down there looking for us. Because we had somebody come up here looking for y'all.
Yeah, without a doubt.
All right, State. What's a tip that you would give to a recruit or somebody who will be getting recruited in the near future?
Yeah, I'm going to kind of keep it on topic with what you guys are talking about, and it's just be yourself. I think a lot of guys either try to show too much or not enough, and just they're just not being themselves on visits. And another big thing is just like stay off your phone. Like that's a big that's a big thing. I'm just talking about like just on visits or like when you like meet them. Like learn to interact face to face. Learn to look people in the eye, shake their hands.
Look interested.
Yeah. Just like look like you're interested, even if you're not. Just showing that respect to whatever coach is recruiting you, whatever school you're visiting. I just think that's a big thing now. It's like we've had kids who, just don't look or just look uninterested, looking at their phones. And so that's a big way to unrecruit yourself at any school is just not show interest. So I would say just keep being yourself, man. I mean, that's who you are. That's who you are. Just keep being that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What about you, Coach?
Yeah, what about you?
Yeah, so there's a Bible verse that we've shared with our team quite a bit that I think applies to kind of this. It's the verse goes, "Do not grow weary or get tired of doing good or doing the right thing, for at the right time you'll reap the harvest if you don't give up." And I think that there's a element to the recruiting process of it's a long process. It takes some endurance, it takes some stamina, and it takes some consistency as well too. And so what I would say to guys, don't give up. Don't get tired of continuing to press forward, of doing the right stuff, of being the right guy, of reaching out, because at the right time things will come about. So if a coach doesn't get back to you right away, don't get tired of reaching out. Still do it the right way. You're gonna be frustrated. It's okay. Like having those emotional responses isn't wrong. How you respond to those is gonna determine. So if a coach doesn't get back to me right away, am I gonna try to then again follow up again and again? Am I gonna reach out to another school? Don't get tired of doing that. Don't get tired of continuing to look for that right thing. Like don't get tired of being that right type of person, taking the visit, talking to this person, finding out what I want. It's a long process, and it takes consistency as well too. And that consistency in communication being a two-way street. Reach out. We're going to reach out, respond, and just a consistent communication both ways is important in this process. And so I would just say make sure that you're consistent. That'd be one of the biggest things that I could say, and I think that also then goes to a million other things in life. But in this process specifically, just know that it's going to be a long process, and keep showing up, keep doing the right thing. You don't know when that process is going to end, but I think it's like that. That's some good wisdom for this, and for everything else. So, yeah. So we're going to bring on a special guest, Coach Manrey Saint-Amour. He get a to chat with him a little bit about about kind of some of these topics as well. Get a chance to introduce him in a second as we bring him on. He's one of my close friends. Someone that I've coached with, someone that I love. Definitely excited to get to talk with him here. So let's go ahead and pop him on. All right, guys. So here we are with our guest today, Coach Manrey Saint-Amour, offensive line coach at Georgia State. He has had a heck of a coaching career so far. He's gone from NAI school, Concordia University in Michigan, to Division II school, Savannah State, to Florida State, to Alabama, to
Charleston.
Dang it. All right, my bad. Start that over. My fault.
No, you got to keep it in. It's natural. I think you got to keep it in.
I don't know about that.
After Charleston.
To Charleston Southern, to Georgia, and now to Georgia State. He's been at many different levels. He's a phenomenal coach, an even better person. One of my best friends. Manrey, welcome to the Play Action Podcast.
Let's go.
Yes, sir, Manrey.
Turn it up, man.
Man, it is good to have you on. We really appreciate you being our first guest. Excited that it's you. Kind of to start out with, we've been talking, just as a group between us. For us, a lot of this is about relationships, and man, I know it's the same for you as well too. You want to kind of just tell a story. How'd you and I first get connected? How we meet? Kind of just tell a little bit about about that story.
Heck yeah, man. I think relationships are crazy. And you talk about how one relationship can change the trajectory of your whole life. That's our relationship, Jonathan. I mean, like, it's crazy how God works. I mean, you're saying like, hey, man, like, your coaching career is growing and growing, but for me, if I never met you, it probably would never even started, So, I give God the glory for you and you coming into my life and we connecting the way we did. But it all started around I think it was 2016, 17. I always met 16, yeah. I think.
2016 down in Mexico. Well, first in Xenia, Ohio.
Xenia, Ohio. So I went to Georgia Southern, okay. So don't this Georgia State's out of the rival, but I went to Georgia Southern, played ball there. Of course, love my experience. And of course, like any player, you're aspiring to go to the league. Well, I didn't make it to the league my first round through. And of course, I'm bitter. I don't want to do it anymore. So I'm like, I'm going to do something that I know I could do, preach. So I jumped into ministry, just doing that. So I was doing AIA for that first semester. I raised support. I raised a bunch of support. And this guy named Tyler Warren was hitting me up and he's like, hey, man, I want you to come out. We're doing this Team USA trip. It's a mission trip. You get to play some ball. And when looking back, if I was, I would never done it if I didn't raise the money. And if I was still actually training. So I was like, you know what? I raised the money. I'm training. I might as well go out. So I go out. And at the time, I didn't know if I still wanted to be a team chaplain. It's crazy because that October at Georgia State, I was yelling at our center. When we was playing Georgia State in October, and I was the team chaplain. I'm yelling at the center for not blocking back. And I'm like, man, maybe this team chaplain thing is, I wanted to be more involved. So like before I went to AIA, the mission trip in Mexico in 2016, I kind of took a step back from AIA, took like a 3 or 4 months off to train again for Pro Day, thinking that was the answer. Well, now you're washed up 2-year center. So I train, I go out to Pro Day and I'm like, man, I'm back at Georgia Southern. And when it's not going to go well when the head coach is like, man, we can't wait to get you back and be a team chaplain for you. It's like, bro, I got to run a 4.5. Well, I swung and missed again. But that gave me kind of like, hey, the confirmation, it's not the league. Well, because I was training, I was able to be in shape and be big enough to go play in AIA. So I'm like, I tell Tyler, like, hey, let's do it. let's roll. So we go to Xenia, and Connington is like this coach. He's a quarterback coach, and I'm just an old lineman. I'm straight out of college basically. And at first, you're a player, so you don't you're hanging out with the other players. And God was able to do a really good thing, and God has really brought us together. And when we went down, so I talked to Connington probably a couple times in Xenia, but we didn't start connecting till we was in Mexico. And we sat down and we talked and we got to know each other. I was like, man, this dude just like me. We chilled. We had a bunch of, and even though he was a coach and he was not a player, I felt a really strong bond to him. And we finished playing and we kind of went our separate ways. And that mission trip really changed my perspective on coaching and what football is really about, because we were able to take a bunch of just ragmuffin guys from D3 to NAIA. I didn't even know Concordia existed. Let's get it. I'm like, Concordia? What? Y'all have to watch y'all own. What? Like, they're telling me these D3 horror stories, and I'm like, what? You guys love ball. I thought I love ball. So, I didn't even know like Concordia existed, and here Coddington's coaching is nuts off at Concordia. But anyways, like I really, that mission trip showed me like, man, God can really use football for his glory at a higher level from the coaching perspective, because I was not used to that culture where my coaches were praying for me and we were doing Bible studies and we was doing discipleships and they were men of God. Everything was more performance based. Well, now we got a love based coaching staff, and I'm like, wow, this football is different. So I think that was the first seed planting on kind of what God was trying to tell me. So long story short, me and Cotty didn't connect. I think we were eating like enchiladas, or we was eating some cafeteria food, and we was talking, and we go our separate ways. We get our numbers, and we're cool. Well, I actually was heading out to go to Australia. So after that trip, the AIA was like, hey, are you coming back or are you going to do your own thing? I was like, man, I'm not coming back. So I actually signed a contract to go to Wollongong, Australia, to go play. And it's basically like the XFL. They was trying to start out there. So I'm like, hey, I'm going to go play and do this professional stuff. Well, 2 weeks before I'm supposed to go out there, they sent an email that the league crashed because of financial issues. And I'm like, holy moly, I was crushed. But that was the beginning of God starting to really drive me towards my calling. So I remember literally sitting here talking to my old team chaplain, Matt Wise. He's like, Manrey, you got all these skills and all these stuff. You just need to commit to something. And I decided that day, like, hey, I'm going to really commit to this college coaching and trying to really be a good coach. So 3 months passed. That was like September. 3 months passed. 3 months passed. And we're over here. Cotty calls me in December, like, hey, I got this O-line coaching job. You'll be a GA, da-da-da. I'll take care of you, da-da-da. And I'm like, I was so focused on the wrong thing, because I was thinking, I don't know if I want to be a coach. I want to preach. So I'm trying to use coaching, to educate for my education, right? So I'm like, I want to go to a ministry school where I could get a ministry degree. And this shows you how kind of aloof I was, or I didn't understand what coaching, how much time constraint was it. I was not fun to do both. But in Concordia is a Lutheran school, so I'm like, well, Connie, they don't have Lutheran is not kind of a church that I'm going. I'm a Baptist Southern preacher. I'm bringing the heat on Sundays, so I can't do it, right? But so he kind of hangs. He's like, all right, well, just let me know if anything changes. Well, 2-3 months pass. I'm trying to find other schools. This school rejects me. That school rejects me. And my dad calls me and he's like, yo, how about that one school up in Michigan? Like, they offered you the job. I'm like, Pops, there ain't no way. They ain't no way they still have. That was in December. They filled that spot. Well, I call him and he's like, dude, we got the spot open. Like, it's still there. Let's roll. So I go up there. We do a 7-hour interview with Rhodey. We get the interview going. But and it was a done deal ever since. And young GAs, it's always as a young GA, Coddington kind of paved the way to show me, like, he kind of housed me, helped me, then stayed with him. I didn't have to pay much. I wouldn't be able to do it if it was not for Coddington, not for Jonathan coming in and kind of being sacrificial and just kind of creating a space for me to grow. And I tip my hat out to Concordia. That's where I started, and it's tough that what's going on with that program right now for Shu. So our prayers and thoughts are with them, and just what they're doing is very heroic. But Concordia is a place that's I'm always gonna remember, because it's taught me. You either get scarred by your first coaching staff, or you thrive. I was being able to, that coaching staff along with Cody, what they helped me with, and Cody mostly helped me with a bunch of stuff. We would learn inside zone, and I remember Cody was teaching me like how to teach a PowerPoint, like how to go up and teach my old lineman. And like I was like, oh shoot, I didn't even think about it, like organizing things. So our relationship, without Jonathan, I'm probably not half of the coach I am right now. So just think about just one AIA Mexico game that I just did just because has changed my life, because I met Jonathan. It's the power of relationships is undefeated. It's amazing.
Yep.
So appreciate you, man.
Yeah, no, appreciate you. I know from that trip down in Mexico, one of the memories that'll like stick in my mind more than, I don't even know what the scores of those games were. It doesn't even matter what the scores of those games were, but it was halftime of our game against China. And at halftime, I don't even know why you did this. I think a guy on the Chinese team got hurt and
Yeah.
played the last play of the half. And so you're the first one out there, kind of getting out to him. All of a sudden, the USA team on one side, the Chinese team on one side, everybody gets down on a knee. This kid's right in the middle. And you, as a player, are standing over the entire group, and this is on TV, and you are leading a prayer with representatives from the United States, representatives from China, and like just praying over this dude. And I don't know exactly what that was, but that was like it was a really powerful picture, and like a kind of just, I mean, it was a cool like foreshadow to heaven as well too. People from just different backgrounds coming together. The football doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that we were competing in that moment. Like at that moment, we were going to be together in that, and you led us in that. That was which was awesome. And even though you said no the first time, and I think you've said no to me a couple times since then, man, thankful that you took that leap, came up to Concordia. I'm thankful that spot was still open, and the second person we offered it to said no to make way for you to come up.
Let's go.
Then you became family, and became really entrenched in our lives. And I remember telling Shu before you interviewed that day, I was like, okay, hey, I got him here. You were just kind of hanging out at my house. I came in, I was like, I promise you that in 2 years, when this guy's done with his GA, you can fire me and hire him full time, and I would support that, because that's what kind of guy this guy is. And thankfully, he did not do that. And but like I was willing to say it, because it's like I just wanted it to be known. It's like, if we don't hire this guy, we're stupid. Like, we got to get this thing done. And obviously, you had a great couple of years there. Like you said, I mean, that place was a launching pad for all of us. We really loved it, and all of the players loved you more than just about anybody else there. I know, so many stories I think that each player there could tell about you. And I know, Garrett's got, I know, a lot of stories. I don't know if you got one, Garrett, that you'd want to share.
Man, I got a couple I can't share on here, but I got one, man. The first like real interaction I remember having with you, man, Ray. I was a freshman. I believe it was around the winter time, like November, December. So like I was still kind of getting acclimated to everything. And I was in downtown Ypsilanti by the BP gas station in the KFC, and my tire popped. And I get out the car, man, and it was like completely off the rim. I was like, oh my goodness. It was super late at night. And I call my roommate. Roommate's not home. I call my buddy Roger. Roger was with his girl at the time. I was like, man, I called everybody I could. I was like, man, it's too late. I don't know who else is going to be up. Coach Coddington will be up. So I called Coach Coddington. And how far did you live? Like 20,
We were
25?
about 20 minutes away from you. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, man, he was like, hey, what's up? I was like, man, I'm stuck at this BP/KFC, man. I really need help. If you could help me change my tire. I didn't have anything, didn't know how to do it, nothing. And he was like, oh, I'll be there in 10 minutes. Dude was there in 10 minutes.
and you popped out the car, man, and you took over, dude. You started doing everything. You started like me and Kyneton just kind of watched. But yeah,
he was
man,
the
you
only
helped so
one
much.
strong enough to move the grease off the
Yeah.
tire. We
Man, a
couldn't get it done.
couple of the bolts were on a little too tight,
Yeah,
man.
you
But
need that D1
nah,
strength to get that off.
nah,
Oh,
man. But I always remember that about you. I'll never forget that story. I heard Coach Cod still uses that story to this day, man. But nah, man, it just shows the kind of person you are, man. Like we didn't even really have a ton of interactions. I was super shy as a freshman, so it just kind of goes to show your character. I don't know what the conversation was if he bribed you to go or not, but you went and you helped a freshman at midnight at a KFC parking lot. I'll never forget that, man. So thank you for that.
hey, no doubt, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, funny
Yeah,
story, man.
yeah, man. That's cool.
Well, that's cool. That's cool to kind of hear some of the stories. I was fortunate to meet Manrey through Coach Cod, and again, just hearing more about you. You're a very likable guy. So it's an honor to meet you and be able to say that we can develop our own relationship at some point.
Yeah.
But with Garrett, I know you didn't recruit Garrett when you got to Concordia and everything like that, but you had the luxury to work on many different levels of college football, and recruiting is a huge part of college football. So, you kind of want to kind of dive into some things that you kind of look for when it comes to recruiting at Georgia State when you're prospecting guys.
Yeah, no doubt. I think like as a coach, you have to first kind of understand like when it comes to recruiting the lay of the land. Understand what system you are in, and not just football system, not like inside zone, outside zone, but like what your coaches are looking for, what's the fit of your university, what can you pull off, what you can't pull off, and understanding, okay, this is going to be my sweet spots. This is where we're going to be. Because a lot, when you understand the lay of the land, what you can do, it saves so much time chasing the wrong thing or trying to go for a 5-star or do this and do those things. So once you understand the lay of the land, like at Concordia, the lay of the land was we had a chance to get a lot of kids. So we could have recruited a bunch of guys. So it was more, I had to have the more calls and the more connects you make, the more kids you will get as you move.
Between you and me, who had more minutes when we were?
It was definitely. Cody started off a little strong. I definitely took over. He started talking to Kelsey. Which is good investment. It was a good investment.
Start slacking.
Front. All of a sudden, I'm like, bro, it's easy. I'm whooping you every Wednesday. Little did I know he was talking to the different recruit.
Different recruit, yeah.
Sorry, I got us off track there for a second.
Nah, that's funny. No, but it was Concordia was all about the minutes, and it's probably very similar to you guys at D3 and AI level. How many contacts can I get and bring in 10, 15 of the right fit guys? As you kind of move up to high level, D2 is very similar to D2 is at Savannah State. It was the lay of the land was, hey, I know we're kind of you kind of find your guys and see who's waiting at the end. Charleston, it was different. It was kind of finding your own way. Like, hey, this is the guy that I really like. And you focus on those guys and you fit which guys are better. And then, you go to those mega houses like Alabama and Georgia. And it's all about, to be honest, early relationships. Because those guys have everything. They see everything. It's about building an early relationship when they're a sophomore, a junior, and making a lasting impression, which goes down to, okay, now the lay of the land as Georgia is evaluating, finding out who's the fit, and then going to get those small guys. So the lay of the land is very different. So, but once you understand the lay of the land, it's gonna narrow your list on who I'm gonna get, who's going to fit here. And that's going to allow you to be free to do those other things. The second thing is evaluation is just as important as recruiting and calling and connecting and talking to moms and kissing babies. Well, you have to know that there's a conviction about the person you're getting. So, of course, you see the kid first, you check his highlight, you put him on the list. As you continue to have him on the list, you have to figure out, hey, where is my non-negotiables? if you're recruiting a running back and your main component is you need a speed guy and he runs a 4.8, well, there you go. There's no conviction. But if you find a running back that's fit, that's right in Indiana, that's, hey, good speed, that has good grades, we have early conviction. That means I'm going all in. The early you can get conviction on a kid, the different you talk to a kid. So a lot of times in recruiting, you kind of beat around the bush. Well, da 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 da. No, the faster I can eval him and rewatch him and be like, no, this is an answer. I can go recruit. I could go get him. And then when you find the lay of the land, when you understand the importance of evaluation, that opens up the doors for, the relationships, building genuine real relationships. And what these kids need now and more is honesty. It's just saying, hey, this is what we have, these are who we're recruiting, this is our spots, and not just them, the coaches and the people around them, their families, and this is how I'm going to treat you, you see. And just telling them kind of everything that's going to happen, because a lot of coaches just call, they either offer and you don't ever hear from them, they text and they never respond, and you just kind of let them know, first, I'm going to be honest and genuine, and here are you, and here am I. And I think that helps a lot of things. And that allows them to trust you more. And then you get into the fun part where it's getting to know the kid, getting to understand the kid, getting to kind of see, okay, this kid's going to be a really good fit, or hey, this kid's not going to be a really good fit. So those are the kind of the things that I kind of go through. Understanding the lay of the land, eval, okay, is just as important as recruiting. And then just building the relationships that you want,
So kind of transitioning that, man, right? So kind of talk to me about what your recruiting cycle is like at the D1 level versus like the NAI or the D2 or the D3 level.
Yeah, definitely. It was definitely different in every single level. NAI, I thought, I still to this day think NAI is the funnest, like the most fun recruiting in the world, because there really ain't nothing. As long as the kid qualifies and stuff, you can offer 20. I could offer 20 offensive linemen, 30, and they're all different like levels. And you could go get, like, the most joys that I had was at Concordia, getting Georgia kids. And I remember Keyrell Jackson. You remember Keyrell?
Yeah. Shout out Kiro.
I found Keyrell on Twitter at Archbishop Rummel, 5'5", maybe if that, 200 pound running back with pretty good hips. All right. And I remember bringing him Cody, like, dude, look at this guy. And Cody's like, there's no, like, they're looking at me like I'm fighting Shu and Rhodey. And I'm like, give this kid 8. We need this kid, like, I'm tooth and nails on him. And I was able to, he told me, like, hey, like, when he got here, when he finally got there, he's like, Coach, you changed my life. You helped me do these things. So, like, I love NAI recruiting because there's not a lot of limitations. You find a good kid and you find a kid that fits the system, boomless, bro, you could bring 15 of them in there. So the sky's the limit, and there's not a lot of no's. Where now, when you go to D2, D1, well, we only decide 5, and they have to be really good 5s. So I'm going to D2. I'm like, dang, what's up with these all limitations? And there's this essence of you can't miss, which puts the stress on it, and that essence grows as you elevate.
Mm-hmm.
So, and if you miss, what are you going to miss on? Are you going to miss big? Are you going to miss smart? Are you going to miss on good kids? Are you going to miss on, you see? So that's essence of, I have to really hit home runs with every kid, because every year depends on it. So when you look at Georgia, when I'm just talking about O-line, they get the pick of the crop, but they don't go too much in the portal O-line. It's all the top 5 best offensive linemen. Alabama was the same way. The best, but they get re-evaled and they know come signing day, this guy's going to be really good. So now, 2 years from now, that same guy that they picked up is about to get drafted because of the thoroughness. So because we're as you grow, you pull from a smaller population, the thoroughness increases and the net kind of decreases, which that comes with complications. And now coach doesn't want this and those things. So it kind of restricts you. It's not as fun as NAIA.
Those scholarship meetings were always fun. Sometimes you could get passionate about a guy and you got to fight for some money, but then but there's still that element of, man, that kid's got to back it up a little bit, because it's like, I'm putting my neck on the line for this kid. And now at your level, it's a lot more, than what it is at the smaller schools, but there's still an element to that. It's like, our jobs are in some ways in the hands of, these young dudes. And I think you mentioned it before. It's like, it then boils down to trust. Can we find these guys that we trust, guys that I'm willing to say, hey, I'm gonna fight to get you an extra $2,000 or whatever it might be. So
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's like as you go, the consequences of you picking a kid is going to affect not just you, but everybody in that building and everybody that's attached to the name and the logo and the brand. So one of the things that God put on my heart, like when I got here at Georgia State, of course, our offensive line was not where it needed to be, and we got here short, and the portal was just about to open, and I didn't have the chance to. It was like I had two recruiting seasons where I got here in February. We did spring, we let go of a couple guys, and then I had to fill the room with 6 guys in about 3 weeks. And then right after that, I had to go recruit 5 more offensive linemen to come for our freshman class. Well, gosh, I mean, when the pressure's on and you don't have a lot of time, who are we going to lean on? And I literally started praying for the right people, and asking God, Lord, this is your ministry. This is your room. This is your platform that you're doing. I want you to bring the right men in the life so I could plant seeds to not just to glorify your name off and on the field. Bring me the right guys. And I'm kid you not, he's filled my room with really good guys and all different lifestyles, walkways, but different ways. So I think as a Christian, we have to start understanding that, our the way that we view God is bigger than our circumstances, because hey man, I got a big God. He could do anything. He can give me a 5-star tomorrow. But we limited ourselves to this dimension because we don't have that faith where God is, has more and more dimensions than we could ever think. So that's one of the keys that I'm going to always keep, is just kind of praying God for the right guys. Bring me the right guys. And what it does is when you lose that quarterback that you love, or that wide receiver, or, that safety that you've been talking to, you're like, well, Lord, you're in control. And you don't panic or you don't get frustrated at the point, okay, I'll get to the next one. I know that's you. So you have something that that's above you. And I think sometimes in recruiting, we get this ego, like, I'm gonna go get this kid and that kid. Well, who are you? You ain't nobody, right? So understanding who the source is, which is God, is going to allow our fruit to thrive. So,
yeah, for sure. So obviously, in your personal life, your faith is a huge element. It's the number one thing. And as you've kind of talked at the beginning about how you use that in your coaching, and you mentioned obviously your coaching is your ministry. It's the work that you do for God. And I think one of the things that people love about you is that you're so genuine. As Christians, we're not perfect people, and if we try to be, it just turns people off, right? And we're not, but we've got that faith in Jesus, that relationship with God. Tell me, how do you, specifically in recruiting as that part of your job, how do you incorporate your faith aside from, I think that's awesome, praying for those right guys, and we definitely do the same thing, and because we need those right guys there, and I ain't perfect at getting those right guys, and so I need that help. Aside from being able to just ask for that help, what are some other ways that you incorporate your faith, your belief in your job as a recruiter?
Yeah, and I think that's a great question. I think I really look to be interrupted. And there's two things: being interrupted, right? So being really keen and aware to what the kid on the phone needs at the moment. I think so many times we want to read the script as coaches. What's up, bud? Or hey, brother, or how you doing, man? How was practice? How was this? How was that? And a lot of times we don't slow down and say, okay, Lord, like what is this kid going through? What's his mom really like? What's his dad really like? Does he have a girlfriend? What are the emotional things that he might need as a kid? Sometimes I just go back to what I needed to hear when I was in high school. And I start to see that there, like, okay, allow me to be interrupted. Let me look for interruptions in a certain way they talk or a certain way they say something and say, okay, man, let me see if I could go there. And with that, if that opportunity comes up, I use it to really edify the kid. And what we do as recruiters is we have a chance to enter a kid's life and build him up. We don't know how his home life is. We don't know what his values are. We don't know if he's a Christian, not a Christian. Whether he becomes a Christian or not, we can build better men for our generations by coaches. Just think about if every coach in America was mission minded and saying, when I talk to a recruit, I want to make sure I be an example on how to live and how to, what I mean, do those things and just have genuine conversations. Our generation will be changed, right? So that's kind of one of the things. The second thing is just serving. I think a lot of coaches get into this thing where I gotta kiss this guy's tail so he could get here. I gotta do this so he could get here. Oh, I gotta call his mom. No, you get to serve. I get to talk to this kid and serve him. Do you need water? Do you need this? What do you need? Do you understand? So recruiting is about being interrupted and being willing to be interrupted for building up men of God and for God's glory, and then also just serving. If you focus on those two pillars, I really think that those kids are gonna draw to you. The third thing, all right, is enthusiasm, right? I think a lot of times those kids can feel your joy and your peace through the phone. Be excited. They're kids. That's the beautiful thing about us as coaches. We could just be kids. You know what I mean? It keeps us young. So, you know what I mean? Whatever I got to talk about Kodak Black or what are those things, you know what I mean? Or whatever it is, we can be kids again, just kind of through them. And I think that is what kind of let their guards down because they're like, oh, this coach is a big old kid. I'm good with him. You see what I mean?
Yeah. No, that's cool. I think it's awesome that it's like in those conversations, you enter that kid into that kid's life in that moment, maybe give him something that maybe he doesn't necessarily, it's not something he wants, something he needs in that moment, but then the long term as well, too, thinking about the impact that you've had on so many guys, whether it was at Concordia where you started at the biggest level, the Florida State, the Bama, the Georgia, whether it's where you're at now at Georgia State. I mean, when you got a good story of like, man, when you offer this kid a scholarship and just you change his life completely. Like his life is now different because he's in your room, because he's at Georgia State, because he gets to be around you and some other really high quality people. You got any cool stories of like, how recruits have reacted in those moments?
Yeah, man, I got a bunch. I mean, a lot. Like I was blessed with Coach Searles at Georgia to just allow me to kind of take off with recruiting, and he's like, "Hey, you can offer kids, you can do these things." So there's a bunch of kids that just through my evaluation and me just trusting my gut and saying, "Hey, I'm going to offer this kid." I have a who's had no offers end up just blowing and growing up and really making their name for themselves. Maybe they don't come to Georgia. Maybe we didn't even necessarily need them or want them, but it's changed the trajectory of their lives. I know just one kid in general. His name is our kid right now that we have actually two kids, and one is just a preferred walk-on offer. So there's a tight end that we changed to O-line, and he came in like 230. Now he's 285, and he's in the second string tackle, just pushing. So it's every kid has a different story, but I just feel like there's too much for me to kind of hang down just how those scholarship change and those conversations change, but also understanding that, like there's plenty of kids that I talked to Georgia and spent hours building that relationship, and I'm never going to reap that harvest, if that makes sense. They're not going to play for me. They're not going to coach for me. Maybe sometimes it comes around and that you do, but the biggest thing is if you do it for God's glory and you're talking about other things like, hey, man, well, how are your girlfriend? Like, well, how are you treating girls? How are you doing this? And you've invested in the kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what I mean? So it's never in vain,
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Man, that's solid. That's solid. So, outside of, getting started early, being able to develop relationships with these guys, as soon as possible, and the constant evaluation and reevaluation once you kind of figure out who it is you want to go after. What are some tips that you may have for coaches, new or in the game already? What type of tips do you have for us in the recruiting world?
Yeah, so definitely, I think like, yeah, outside of evaluating and getting on a kid early, I think recruiting, you have to just, oh man, I think one of the things that's be a really helped me in recruiting uh in that sense is kind of once you figure out, hey, this is this kid, you kind of have to start to understand the different phases. Okay, now that I got the kid attention, let me start connecting with the mom and the dad and the family and kind of developing the relationships outside of that, outside of the kid. And I think that's gonna strengthen the recruit's relationship with you. I think like reevaluations are always really helpful, and kind of always just keeping a track of just all the kids that you have watched, and kind of always backtracking your work to see how am I developing and growing as a recruiter. And then the one thing too is almost like having a time where you kind of do shut it off, and because recruiting is kind of overwhelming, but you're like, hey, I know I'm going to recruit from this time to this time, and then hey, I shut it off because one thing you don't want to do is either recruit so hard so much time that you don't want to do it again, or you kind of become dry and not effective when you do talk to the kids. Mm-hmm. So understanding, hey, here's a system, here's that. As a coaching staff, information is power. So depending on, what you do dealing with, how y'all doing that, the more connected you guys could be with your kids. Okay, hey, we got the main guys that you want. I really think that's going to help. So when we talk about, hey, we're recruiting kid A, and kid A is our guy. Well, now we have to make sure not just I'm talking to kid A, but Cotty's talking to kid A, the defensive coordinator's talking to him, so he could feel more involved. So just understanding different things on recruiting like that, I think that's good.
Yeah, that makes sense. And you talked about basically recruiting the parents. What does that conversation kind of look like? Is
Yeah.
it, because I'm pretty sure it's a little bit similar, like what's your favorite hobbies and those type of things, how does developing that relationship with the parents look?
It's very different. Every parent's different. There's some parents that's out of the family, some kids. So it's like you have to find the champion. You know what I mean? Who's a kid? Because it might be an uncle. It might be, so you don't want to recruit the wrong parent, if that makes sense. You got to find the person that really cares about the kid's recruitment and the kid takes the influence on. And once you find that, that's where you have to go. But that parent relationship is it's it's kind of no cookie cutter way, because you might recruit a parent that just loves to talk and they love to talk and they're on the phone a lot and they just, or you might one that wants the straight up facts. And I think once you can understand what that parent wants, you can adjust to them and cater to what they need, and then they kind of see the genuineness out of you, you know. But parents need information, and they want honesty up front. When you give them information, because they always think they're getting gypped. Like, what is this about? What is no, look, hey, ma'am, we are this school. This is what we're doing. I like your son. He's really good. Or hey, your son is this on our board, you know. I also don't want to get involved into parents until I really know about the kid. Because that's kind of up and down. You're kind of opening up stuff. But once you know about those parents, and you know, hey, let's go get them, you know?
Right on, right on.
That's cool. What about the flip side? You know, we got some high school guys out there interested in getting recruited. You know, I'm sure they'd rather get recruited by you than me. But number one, two-part question: how do I know if I'm a recruit? I'm a high school kid. How do I know if I'm D1 or not? And number two, any just kind of general tips for a high school kid that wants to get recruited?
100%. I think it says in the Bible, you will know them by their fruits. There will be fruits coming to you. I think a lot of times these kids think, a lot of times at a high school kid, there's a reason why you still haven't gotten an offer. There's a reason why there's no letter in the mail. Is you have to be kind of honest and cutthroat and say, okay, well, shoot, well, ain't nothing's going on here. What can I do about it? And once you figure that out, that's going to help you move with more sense of urgency or understand that you're right on track. But I think you'll know about your fruits. We're recruiters out there. We're watching, you know, with Twitter now and YouTube and like social media, you can blow up overnight. So understanding your resources, and you'll know just kind of with the intention you have. So let's just say, hey, you're getting a lot of attention. You're gonna know that, right? And now you have to adjust to see, okay, where's the right attention? What's the best fit for me? Now, if you're a kid that's struggling, right? You're a kid that's struggling and you're not getting recruited, nobody's getting to you. Now you have to take it a little bit more into a more proactive look, right? You have to be more proactive. Hey, I'm in Indiana, or hey, I'm in Georgia. Where are all the schools that's close to me that I could actually go to school there, and I like it, and I go and put myself out there, and give myself a shot and camp at different levels to find your niche, you know. So I think it's about finding your fit, and once you find that, I think that's gonna help a lot.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for sharing those with those guys out there.
Yeah, no doubt.
All right, man. Ray, you ready for some rapid fire?
Let's go. Let's go.
Man, so I got a couple quick questions before I ask you my main question. One, is it true that you played Florida while you were in college?
Yeah, it is true.
Isn't it true that you beat Florida, correct?
Yeah, it's true that we beat Florida 23-26. No.
So was that also the game that two Florida players were blocking each other? Was that the same game?
Yeah, the Lord was working for us.
Yeah, I was just kind of curious if you could walk me through like the first time you saw that, or like what your reaction was when you get like during the game.
I was like, no wonder they losing. During the game, huh? Go ahead.
I had no idea that was that game. That's the first I knew that.
Oh, really? Yeah,
that's wild.
It was crazy, man. When those are the games that you really don't ever forget. You always understanding like that feeling. But I didn't realize till after on ESPN and they're trolling these guys. And I didn't realize, I was so focused on kind of the assignment. I didn't realize they was blocking. I don't think anybody did till after that. I was like, dang. And they're like, no wonder we got more points than they did. They didn't know how to freaking block.
Hilarious, man. I was just watching that clip the other day and I was like, if I'm not mistaken, Manrey was on this team. So yeah. I just wanted to confirm that.
Thanks, yeah, man.
Do you two got any rapid fire questions? Any quick questions for him?
Would you rather have toes for fingers or fingers for toes?
Ooh, toe. fingers for toes,
I got
man.
another good one. I got another.
That's tough, man. The fingers for toes is crazy. Um, man, I think I'll have to go with toes for fingers because then if you have fingers for toes, man, you can't walk. I think you won't be able to move. So I could handle at least having short numbs, I guess. I'll be with gloves.
Which of the 3 Rush Hour movies is your favorite?
Hey,
Ooh.
man. Oh, that's a great one, man. They all 3 my favorite. I gotta go with Rush Hour 2.
Cool, man. Yup.
Classic.
Rush Hour 2 is a classic. Come
Man,
on, Lee.
Man Ray, I got one more question for you from me. Out of all, you've been to a lot of places. Out of all the uniform colors and combinations, which one is your favorite?
Ooh, that's nice. Oh man,
Good question.
that's a really good question. I'm probably gonna say, to be honest, brother, Georgia's pretty lit. I'm not gonna lie. It's just red. It's cool. Black on
Black, yeah.
jerseys, the red. At first, it's pretty cool seeing the boys walk out.
That's real.
Yeah. Well, awesome, man. Well, hey, we just want to say thank you so much for being on with us, talking a little bit. It's always great to get to see you and chat with you. And we appreciate, kind of some awesome thoughts and things that you brought, to us today. So can't wait to get you back on after a
Let's go.
really successful season at Georgia State. Definitely wish you the best of luck there.
Yeah, man. We'll get them.
Sir, thank you, Man Ray. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Same thing to y'all, man. Keep on grinding, keep shining for the Lord.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate you. Love you, brother.
Love you too, man.
Love you, Man Ray.
Hey, y'all boys. Peace.